We're through 2 summer league games, and I'll tell you what's concerning and what's normal for the Pelicans and their rookies, Jeremiah Fears and Derik Queen so far. It's the Monday episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans at NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on this Monday. We got 5 shows this week for you. We got a lot to cover with more summer league games. Herb Jones signing an extension. We'll get into that in a day or so. I want to get into the coaching staff as well. There's still a lot to talk about with the Pelicans, and I'm excited to do it right here on the Locked On Pelicans podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And we come in every day. That means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast. And don't forget, you can also watch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network every weekday at 10:30 a.m. So the Pelicans had their second summer league game on Saturday over the weekend, and that was a weird game, to be honest. And we'll get into the general stuff around summer league, but what I want to look at through 2 summer league games, what's actually concerning and what's just like normal summer league stuff. And we'll look at it through Jeremiah Fears first, then we'll look at Derik Queen, and then we'll get into some more general summer league stuff with what we're seeing from this team as well. So we got a lot to cover here. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. So let's do it. Losing to the Los Angeles Lakers 94-81, a game where the Pelicans did not have a single assist in the second half. They had 6 assists overall in this game. Just like I said, a really strange, odd game here. But it's summer league, and winning and losing doesn't actually matter when it comes to anything here. But you might see 6 assists, not in the second half, and you go, didn't they just draft a point guard? Did that point guard have any assists in this game? Jeremiah Fears, and the answer to that is no. And you might think that that is concerning. And on one hand, yeah, maybe. But on another hand, I'm not overly concerned about what you're seeing from the team right now or from Jeremiah Fears right now. And in fact, I think he's showing off the type of NBA skills that you want to see. Last week, the week before, I talked about kind of the one, stat for him. It was 51.8, something like that, 53.8, about his free throw rate of playing downhill, getting to the line, going to the rim. But just playing downhill in general is something that this team needed. And even in this game where he shot 5 of 21, 1 of 7 from 3 for just 15 points on 0 assists, right? 4 or 5 from the free throw line. He's showing off that skill right now. What you're seeing from him, and this is why when I look at 5 of 21, is that a concern? Is the 1 of 7 from 3 a concern? Not really. Those shots will fall eventually. Even Cooper Flagg in his debut game had a terrible shooting game for the Dallas Mavericks. And he still showed off kind of the skills, the talent that you thought was going to make him a very good player in this league. So Jeremiah Fears is kind of doing the same thing, even if the shots aren't exactly falling. So, if we look at that debut for Cooper Flagg, you're like, yeah, it's not bad. It looks pretty good. I'm going to say the same thing for Jeremiah Fears here. Getting downhill, relentlessly attacking is what he's supposed to be doing right now. This Pelicans team is not running a structured offense. You don't really have time to do that sort of thing, right? They're playing just a lot of one-on-one isolation, and maybe something will happen from it. It's freelance basketball. It's like pickup games at the Y or something like that, right? You're not going to have chemistry with those people. You're just kind of showing up and doing the best that you can. That's kind of what's going on here. That's in general how Summer League is. But the fact that he can still get downhill, and look, he missed a ton of shots at the rim, right? When you take out the 3-point attempts, he was 4 for 14, and most of those coming, at the rim misses. The fact that he's finding space, finding creases, cracks in the defense to play downhill and attack the rim is highly encouraging. He's struggling with some of the physicality of the NBA. He's struggling to finish through contact a little bit, but here's the thing. That can all come with time. All of the stuff that he's lacking right now is not one of those things that can't improve and can't get better. And that's what's so encouraging about him. He was a good finisher in college. He'll be a good finisher at the NBA level with just a little bit of time. Is it going to be this year? Maybe not. That's a concern for this coming season because the Pelicans kind of need to be good. And it fears is going to take a little bit, a year to kind of develop some of those skills, which is normal, right? For a rookie. That's not like a knock on him. Just probably means the Pelicans aren't going to be great. And well, with no draft pick next year, that's not an ideal situation to be in. So there's that. But the fact that he's getting downhill is good. And it's even more impressive that he's getting shots up, even if he's missing. When you look at the spacing, like it's garbage out there. It's garbage for most teams in Summer League. Like the paint gets really mucked up in Summer League. They'd rather just take away that and just let guys shoot. It's fine by them. That's kind of what opponents do here. But the fact that it's mucked up means he's finding those creases. He's getting shot attempts up. He's going to be able to do that at the NBA level. Will the shots get blocked? Maybe. Will there be a level of physicality that he needs to kind of put on some strength and go through? Yeah. But the fact that he can find those creases, it's not like the court's spaced and it's easy for him to do it. It's not like they're necessarily even throwing like two guys on him. It's just they're kind of clogging the paint down low. And he's still finding the room to be able to get shot attempts up. That's actually a good thing. Think about him playing alongside Zion Williamson. It could be similar to that. Zion's going to draw that attention. He's playing down low. They're worried about Fears driving. They're worried about Zion driving. You're going to need to find those creases, and Jeremiah Fears is showing you exactly that. The defense, we'll see if he ever ends up as a good defender. You're kind of, I think, hoping for just above average would be fine from him. On the high end, average is fine. He can get there eventually. I'm not going to judge a rookie on Summer League defense unless you're a big man that's supposed to be blocking shots. So the fact that the spacing is bad, there's no coherent offense that they're running, and it's just kind of Jeremiah Fears doing his thing, that's pretty good. And when the shot's not falling, it's easy for him maybe to be like, I'm going to shoot more from outside, or I'm going to do something differently. But no, he's showing the zero fears and still playing downhill and doing what you want to see him do, what makes him a very good basketball player. And so seeing him be able to get those shot attempts up and constantly put pressure on a defense, that's what he's supposed to be doing. That's what he's doing in Summer League. So when I look at, his performances here, yeah, you'd like him to make shots, but that can come with time. The finishing will get better with time. I'm not seeing anything that makes me concerned about him. You're looking for just kind of NBA stuff right now, and he's showing NBA stuff. Yeah, it's a make or miss league at times, and we hope that he'll start making those shots. But he's a rookie. You're not expecting him to come down and be a knockdown, lockdown shooter like that. That will eventually get there. Just might not come next season to be able to really help the team into the playoffs, but maybe it does too. It's Summer League. It's been 2 games. You don't want to read too much into it. He's not showing a lack of effort or anything like that. I don't think his basketball IQ has looked bad at all. He's trying to make passes when he can. It's just, this is a mess of a team in Summer League. And yeah, it's not the normal Pelicans. So what do you expect? So I'm not concerned with anything I've really seen from Jeremiah Fears. When it comes to Derik Queen, that's a slightly different story. And I want to get into that coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. You're getting the full Derik Queen experience, and I'll explain what I mean by that. That's coming up here next in today's episode. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans brought to you by Hungryroot. Let's be honest, meal planning and grocery shopping can be overwhelming. So between busy schedules, picky eaters, trying to eat healthy, it's a lot. And that's why I love Hungryroot. They take the stress out of planning by filling your cart with your personalized groceries and meal options based on what you like and what you need. Hungryroot uses their smart cart technology to recommend groceries, recipes, and even supplements tailored to your preferences. So whether you're dairy-free, gluten-free, focused on gut health, or just trying to eat better, Hungryroot's got you covered. I took their quiz, and right away, Hungryroot started recommending meals and snacks that I actually want. I like to do high-protein diet. All of the snack options and meal options all had 20 or more grams of protein per serving, and then all the snack options had 10 or more grams of protein. That's exactly what I'm looking for, and it immediately knew that. So take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA for 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well and become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast. And if you're an everydayer, let me know in the comments down below. For your second listen, look, if you want to know more about just Summer League in general, we got the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast for you. I'm on there every Friday. We were recapping Cooper Flag's Summer League debut. We got Pelicans talk on there as well. You just want to know about the other rookies lighting it up in Summer League or not lighting it up in Summer League. Locked On NBA Game Night. You can find it on the Locked On NBA YouTube page or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we just talked about Jeremiah Fears in Summer League. Like, what should we be concerned about? What should we not be concerned about? Right now, there's not much that I'm actually concerned about when it comes to Jeremiah Fears. He's showing the skills you want to see from him, even if the results aren't there. Process over results, and he's doing the process thing right. He's getting downhill, he's attacking. Derik Queen's a little bit of a different story. There's been a lot to like from Derik Queen. There really has. Anyone, and I talked about this last week, anyone doing this hyperbolic, oh, it's the worst Summer League performance. Like, get out of here. I wanted to swear right there. We don't do that on the show. And so I hate that, right? 2 double-doubles, and I don't think double-doubles are a good stat. Almost anyone can kind of do that at the NBA at this point, so, with enough minutes. So I'm not looking at that, right? I think if you're kind of pointing to that, you're looking at the wrong things when it comes to him. On the positive side of what there is a lot to like about Derik Queen is the skill that he shows. The passing is definitely there. You're seeing the skilled big man that he can be. That step back three he hit in the first game, you're seeing him show off a little bit of range. You're seeing him get to the line as well, which is what you want to see. You're seeing some of the passing. I think it was 4 assists in the first game, just 1 in this game, but no one was assisting in this game. And he cut down on the turnovers tremendously. So did Jeremiah Fears. That's an improvement. That's playing a little bit more under control, which both Fears and Queen weren't quite doing in game 1. And Queen still kind of trying to figure out what his role is going to be offensively, and how he kind of fits in, really started to get in much more of a groove in this one. And the fact was, hey, I'm not scoring in terms of my shooting. Let me get fouled and go to the line. And he made 4 of 6 from the free throw line. All that, not bad, in my opinion here. So you've seen some very good things from him. The defensive rebounding has also been pretty solid as well. In this game, he had a defensive rebounding rate of, when he was on the court, he was grabbed 22.2% of all available defensive boards when he was on the court. That's a pretty good number for him. He's slightly undersized. If he can get around 22 to 25, I'd be thrilled with that from him. That's a mark of a good defensive rebounder. Not elite, but a good one. In this game, he had 10 defensive boards, 3 offensive boards. That's actually encouraging. The defensive rebounding that you are seeing from him is something the Pelicans need. As a team, they couldn't do much in that regard. They gave up far too many offensive rebounds in, again, it's Summer League. We're not going to read too much into it here. But he did a pretty good job of at least limiting as much damage when he was on the court as possible. So I liked what you saw from him there, and they were limiting those second chance point opportunities for the Los Angeles Lakers, who only had 8 in this game, while the Pelicans had 20 themselves. So you're seeing some pretty good things from this group and what they're trying to do when it comes to that. And I think Derik Queen on the defensive rebounding, not bad. You need Messi to do a little bit more there. Combined between Derik Queen and Messi, your starting front line, essentially, you only had 17 defensive rebounds. You'd like that to be a little bit higher if you can get there. But overall, in the minutes that they're playing, these numbers are fine, and Queen is showing off that he can be a good rebounder. You're seeing the skilled offense as well from him too. Is he a shot blocker? No. And I don't know if Queen's ever going to be that, but Messi at least had 3 blocks in this game. For Derik Queen, where the bigger concern comes in is not the missing shots or anything like that. Again, that comes with time. His issues are some of the effort things, and this is what I mean by the full Derik Queen experience. If you liked him coming into the draft, you saw a very skilled offensive big man that can be an offensive hub, that can be a good defensive rebounder, and has potential range to shoot the 3 and space the court. If you didn't like him, it was you saw a guy that you felt was out of shape, someone that didn't try hard enough, didn't care on the defensive side of the ball, and offensively isn't as involved unless he has the ball in his hands. You're still seeing all of those things. When you watch Summer League, either good or bad, there's like a level of confirmation bias going on with it. If you didn't like Queen going into the draft, you look at this and you're like, I freaking hate this dude. If you really liked Queen going into the draft, you feel pretty good overall about it because, the highs of his game are really, really high. But look, the defensive effort isn't great. At least Fears is trying on defense, and you can't really say the same for Derik Queen. There were a couple of also defensive rebounding attempts that he should have gotten where he just didn't try hard on boxing guys out or wasn't even looking to really kind of hustle for the ball and go up for it. So there were a couple times where he got out-rebounded by guys that shouldn't have out-rebounded him. That's a Derik Queen thing, right? That's not a coaching thing. The hustle on defense, the hustle to get back after a missed shot is not, a coaching thing. We look at the Jeremiah Fear stuff. All that can be improved upon with coaching and development from others. The stuff we look at with Derik Queen, that's a Derik Queen thing. And that's where he just needs to decide, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to be committed to this franchise. It's a similar problem to what we've seen with Zion Williamson. The highs are very, very high, but the lows are very low because at times they just kind of check out. Offensively, if Queen doesn't have the ball in his hands, he does not look to be the most engaged person out there on the court. I don't love that. I'm not going to rip him much for that or read too much, and I'm not going to rip him at all for anything here. But, in terms of the offense, there's no cohesive game plan out there. He's just trying to find where he needs to go. Does he lack some feel for the game in that? Maybe. But overall, you see he's got high basketball IQ. It just needs a little bit of time to figure this out in continuity and chemistry with some of his teammates, and that is certainly lacking right now. But all that, again, can grow with time. It's the hustle, the effort, the drive. Those are things you're looking for. You can miss all the shots you want, but if you're trying hard, you're going to get a big pass from NBA fans, from Pelicans fans. That's not something that Queen is doing right now. That's the biggest concern. It goes back a little bit to like Jackson Hayes, right? Hayes would have a terrible game and he's immediately posting on Instagram after the game. And that doesn't really bother me a ton, right? Like, it's your life. Like when you're not in a game, I don't care what you do, truthfully, for the most part. Not always, it just depends. But Jackson Hayes, it was like, do you want to be an NBA player or do you just want to look like you're an NBA player? You get what I'm saying? Like, do you want to post on social media, look at this dunk that I had when like you went 1 of 7? Or do you want to work on it so you don't go 1 of 7? Do you want to do the work or do you just want to kind of look good? Look, you see this in kind of podcasters and people on social media, right? I don't mean I'm not literally calling anyone out. There's people who can grind and do the work or people who just want to talk on Twitter and get followers because it boosts their ego. It's not necessarily just basketball. It's kind of everything here. Similar thing applies to NBA players. Do you want to be a great NBA player? You just want to be a dude who gets paid for a little bit, is in the league for a while, amasses a big following, and then you can kind of go and do whatever? Or do you want to hustle and work hard every single day? That's what Derik Queen is going to need to decide. Look, I don't doubt that he wants to be as successful of an NBA player as possible. I think they all come into the league at least wanting that. That might change over time. And I think Derik Queen probably wants that. With Zion Williamson, the question is, are you going to be willing to do the work? We don't know the answer for Derik Queen yet, right? Like, truthfully, we don't. They go from playing in the tournament or a long college basketball season to draft prep, which is very different than playing in real games. So getting out there, even in your first or second game, you can be like, wait, what? I haven't played it in a minute. This is a lot. Again, Cooper Flagg struggled. Cooper Flagg then lit it up in his second game, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. That's a factor at play here too. Everyone who wants to label Derik Queen lazy, a bust, it's way too early for that. We don't know if he doesn't want to be great. I think he's doing his best just to acclimate, and they go from being drafted to being in New Orleans to immediately in Vegas. Like, that's a lot on some of these guys. And the people who've been in the NBA who kind of know what your routine is going to be, Yves Missi, Antonio Reeves, Lester Quinones, we'll talk about them a little bit more in the next segment. They have a leg up on that sort of stuff. They've gone through that before. It's why someone like Chet Holmgren in his second year or third year even can really start to make an impact after missing his rookie year because you know what? At least that dude then all of a sudden kind of traveled with the team, understands the routine, understands the eating habits and that kind of stuff. That's going to take a minute for Queen to kind of get into the swing up. That's why I'm concerned about what we're seeing, but I think it's too early to label it anything more than just, yeah, he's young and he's brand new to all of this. That's being optimistic about it, admittedly, here. And that stuff needs to change. You can still put maximum effort in a game. Do that, and then get the other things in line, and it'll come, and he'll be a fine NBA player. So coming up next, let's look at a few other things here. I want to mention that 0 assists in the second half. Not concerning, but also kind of concerning. Let's talk about it. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, so whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the greens, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. Look, you're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel, gotten into golf a little bit more here. And so the app keeps it super fresh with new daily promotions, other fun ways to bet, and it's super easy to use. It's fast to pay out, and it's going to make regular season games feel like must-watch events. So if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. New customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Again, that is a $5 bet for new customers, and you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans podcast and join us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. For your second listen, it's Locked On Saints with Ross Jackson. It's going to be like training camp and all that before you even know it here. The Saints are about to be in full swing. So make sure you are listening to Locked On Saints. Ross Jackson's going to make sense of everything when it comes to the black and gold, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So 0 assists in the second half of the Pelicans loss to the Los Angeles Lakers. It's not great, but again, I'm not overly worried about it. This is a lot of freelance, chaotic basketball. Guys, we're missing shots. It's just kind of how it's going to go. The Pelicans as a whole in this game shot 33.8%. Like, that's not good. You know, if guys aren't making shots, you can't get assists, and that was a big part of the problem, right? Chase Hunter, 16.7%. He was 1 of 6. Trey Alexander, 1 of 5. Antonio Reeves, who's played well, 6 of 13, so that's not as bad, right? But Derik Queen going, 4 for 12. Lester Quinones going 3 of 9, but 3 of 6 from deep. That's good. Those numbers aren't pretty. So you can't get assists if that's going to be the case. And I think right now the Pelicans are just having these guys like do their things, and that's just how it is. So overall, I'm not really worried about it. Messi has looked good enough. I don't think he looks good enough where you don't need to play him in Summer League. I think he needs to keep going. The goal for second-year guys, even third-year guys, is they play so well that you're like, cool, shut him down. We don't need to see him after 1 or 2 games, just like the Dallas Mavericks shutting Cooper Flag down. Lester Quinones, I think, has shown enough that you're like, we don't need to see him anymore. Antonio Reeves has played well. He was the leading scorer for the Pelicans in this game at 20 points. He got to the line a lot. I liked him playing downhill and being aggressive like Jeremiah Fears. 3 steals for him in this game as well. 6 of 13 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. But he was like, you know what? I'm just going to attack. And the Pelicans as a whole were just relentlessly attacking the rim, particularly in the second half of the game. I think that's kind of what the coaches obviously wanted them to be doing. So sure, that'll work. I've liked what we've seen overall from some of these guys. I think Quinones and Antonio Reeves are going to probably be battling it out for that final spot on this roster. That's what I would be looking at as it stands when it comes to it right now. That might change with a trade or other things, but there's one open roster spot. They waived Antonio Reeves. It was smart. You did not need to have his contract guaranteed just yet. But then in Summer League, he looks pretty good. But he should look good in Summer League. He's got an NBA year of experience where he was playing at times significant minutes for the Pelicans. He should look like this. That doesn't mean that, he's necessarily should be on the roster. I think it's still a little bit up in the air exactly what they want to do or how they want to approach things. But overall, I think I've been slightly encouraged from what we've seen from him. Quinones does look like a good three-point shooter as well. I've been impressed with the stroke. You're seeing him make threes. They're going to need that because, as we've seen from this and probably what's going to be in the regular season for New Orleans, the paint's going to be a little bit messy. You need guys that are going to come in and knock down shots. And how many shooters would you say are on the Pelicans right now? They're definitely lacking in that area. Shooting's not the be-all, end-all like it was a couple years ago, but it's still vitally important. We want to see the Pelicans take more threes than they've been taking. So there's that. But I think those are the two guys that you're really looking at. Trey Alexander with a rough game. The shooting was not there. Just no one could finish. Just missing shots at the rim. Don't care. The Lakers have a lot of length. So does Minnesota, like they played in the first game. That, the length clearly bothered Jeremiah Fears and some of the other players on this team. It's not always going to be like that, especially when you're running weird summer league lineups and things. So overall, not too concerned with what we're seeing from the New Orleans Pelicans in summer league because it doesn't really mean much of anything. So I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I'm concerned about some things I'm seeing with Derik Queen, but I think that with time, those concerns can be alleviated because we're on the outside looking in, and maybe he is going hard in practice every day. And if he's doing that, the other stuff will come. Let me know what you think about the Summer League performances so far in the comments down below on YouTube. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. Be coming every day. Listen Monday through Friday to the Locked On Pelicans show here, or join us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network for our shows there. We'll be covering all the other Summer League games. Next game, I want to say, is on Tuesday for the New Orleans Pelicans. And then I think they play on Thursday after that. Is that correct? They get a couple of days here. I forget the exact days on when everything is. But we'll be covering it all here on they play on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we'll cover those. Tomorrow's show, we'll look at the coaching staff of things. And I'll see y'all next time.